Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me this morning. I'm Moody, the Assistant Director at the Meaghan Studio X, and I'm excited to share the story of Studio X, the University of Rochester's hub for extended reality, or XR, and how we've grown since opening officially in fall of 2022. So in this talk, I'll walk you through what we've accomplished so far, what we've learned from our users, and how we're shaping our next phase of growth to support immersive technology in research and education. We documented this in our strategic priorities phase 2 report. But first, a quick overview of Studio X. We are located in the STEM branch of the University Libraries, and our mission is to empower the University of Rochester community to change the way we see the world through immersive technologies by providing spaces, technology, expertise, and community to transform teaching, research, and learning. So we exist to support the research and teaching needs of over 50 XR practitioners across disciplines, and this includes in our Med Center, also at the Eastman School of Music. And a user needs assessment was conducted in 2017 by library staff, and it revealed that access was the primary challenge. Faculty required interdisciplinary space, up-to-date and well-managed XR equipment, and expert guidance to overcome barriers. And although we officially opened in fall of 2022, we actually started our journey a bit earlier in 2020. I actually joined the U of R and moved up to Rochester 3 weeks before the pandemic started. And we started our virtual programming over Zoom in fall of 2020. Teaching Unity over Zoom is a special kind of hell, but we persevered and it helped us grow into a dynamic space, program, and community. At Studio X, we offer a variety of spaces intentionally designed to support XR work, from group study rooms to high-end workstations equipped with powerful graphics cards and dual monitors, both high-def and gaming, and plenty of storage for complex projects. We also have a 16-seat classroom that is ideal for workshops and group collaborations and all kinds of hands-on training with XR technologies. We provide access to a wide range of equipment, including over 40 headsets, most of which can be reserved and checked out through the library. You don't even need an academic reason. And thanks to our endowment, we stay ahead of the curve with the latest tech. But we're more than just access to equipment. We host workshops, reading groups, office hours, consultations, and events like our Voices of XR speaker series. In phase 1, our goals were guided by a functional program informed by the initial user needs assessment that I just mentioned, and its primary focus was to lower barriers to entry for XR. And these goals included launching beginner-friendly student-led workshops on tools like Unity and Blender, often built around very fun themes, as you can see here, this is a VR Flappy Bird game. Then we started rolling out equipment lending and space reservations. We built a team to support all of this. So we hired a librarian, that was my previous role, a coordinator, Aleem, who you can see here in the black and red, to manage our equipment and student employees, and an XR developer. We've also developed an incredible team of student workers who play a key role in everything that we do. They lend equipment, they lead workshops, they conduct research. Patron engagement is a major focus of their training. They're very approachable and patient and create a welcoming environment for anyone curious about XR. Our students also pursue their own XR projects. One really great example is called Orem, which is a VR alchemical laboratory. It's a collaboration with our medieval studies library, and it's based on an actual manuscript in their collection. And through projects like this, they don't just learn technical tools like Unity and Blender, but they gain experience in collaboration, peer feedback, and shared accountability. We partnered with faculty across a wide range of disciplines to integrate XR into their courses, everything from psychology and computer science to education, history, and gender studies. This photo is from a session with our NSF-funded interdisciplinary XR graduate training program. They have a demo showcase at the end of the year, and we had over 20 VR projects available for people to try. And I'm happy to say we've met these goals, and here are a few highlights. We introduced VR to over 1,300 first-time users. We actually keep track of this in a very low-tech way in our space on a whiteboard, and folks love to go and add their tally. We hosted over 252 events with more than 5,300 attendees, ranging from workshops to larger events like our research symposium that we've run in the fall. Over 3,000 pieces of equipment have been reserved and used by our community. And we partnered with faculty on 93 class sessions across disciplines, reaching both undergraduate and graduate students. Our 2-week pre-college program, Dreaming New Realities, is now in its 4th year. We have high school students who come from across the country and join us each summer to learn the basics of 3D modeling and VR development, and they create their own VR mini project. And our Voices of XR speaker series is now in its 5th year. This started over the pandemic as well. And we've now we're 50 speakers, nearly 50 speakers. And these talks are all recorded and available on our website. This series is also a partnership with that NSF-funded XR graduate training program I mentioned. And we feature speakers across industries and disciplines. And if you're interested, it actually kicks off this week on Thursday. You can attend virtually via Zoom. You just have to register. And we are having Steve McCloskey, who is the creator of Nanome, which is a VR molecular visualization application, give a talk. We also have a very strong partnership with RIT's Frameless XR Symposium. We help organize that symposium every year and also present at it. And our student employees have landed wonderful internships at jobs at companies like Netflix, Google, iRobot, Lyft, Amazon, PlayStation, and more. In addition to the skills that they built through their work, we also provide professional development support. We do things like resume reviews and mock interviews. Sometimes those are actually led by students. And we've seen engagement from all 7 schools at the university through equipment lending, space usage, and programming. Well, what's next for Studio X? And as always, we start with our users. From the start, Studio X has embraced a culture of assessment to ensure our initiatives align with user needs. As we plan for phase 2, we continued to practice this with data analysis and stakeholder engagement. In summer of 2023, we partnered with our Career Center. They have a really great initiative to provide PhD students with some alternative job experiences. So we were able to hire Erica, who is a PhD data science intern for the summer. She analyzed our data and refined some of our admittedly messy data capture methods. Then in fall of 2023 into spring of 2024, we worked with an undergraduate UX fellow to conduct administrator and faculty interviews to better understand needs and challenges. She also did affinity diagramming and helped draft an early version of a report. Stakeholders affirmed our success in lowering barriers to entry for XR and creating a space where people feel comfortable experimenting with the technology and seeking help. They also emphasized a growing need for deeper research support in XR. So this quote here really encapsulated what a lot of faculty and administrators were telling us. This is Duye Tadden, who is a professor of brain and cognitive science, and he is also interim dean for the School of Arts and Sciences. He said there's a large and growing body of XR research and applications at the university. Moving forward, a key goal for Studio X is to find its role in supporting and enhancing this work. Momentum is also building across campus with XR. One example is our proposed Center for Human-Centric XR, which is supported by a transdisciplinary planning grant that is part of our 2030 strategic plan. This center brings together faculty across disciplines to catalyze fundamental research, advance hardware, enhance computing abilities, and develop applications. So I'm a co-PI as part of this initiative and have been involved in the early stage research. We had a symposium last fall to bring folks together and generate ideas. And Studio X is uniquely positioned to support and accelerate faculty research by developing sustainable research-friendly workflows. We also heard loud and clear that faculty face real practical challenges. Of course, time constraints is always an issue. The tools are rapidly evolving. Sometimes it's difficult to source student support, and there's a lack of continuity without dedicated staff, further exacerbated by siloed efforts and lack of shared documentation. But those challenges revealed clear opportunities for Studio X. We want to become a one-stop shop for XR research ideas, questions, and connections. So one example of how we're already doing this is a collaborative project that brought together researchers from cognitive science, history, and audio engineering. Together, we helped to create a virtual version of Kodak Hall at Eastman Theater. It's a very famous, beautiful concert hall. You can see a photo of it at the top. And we helped them to create this virtual version to study sensory processing in immersive environments. They wanted to study how the brain understands light and sound in a very spectacular environment. So our role was to connect the faculty who hadn't previously worked together, and also they didn't understand how aligned their research interests or their skill sets could be. We also helped scope the project and move it forward. One of our undergraduate students, Hao, optimized the 3D scans, built the model, and developed a demo VR environment that we passed off back to the research team for further development. Looking ahead, we want to formalize this kind of support, making it more visible, more usable, and sustainable over time. To do that, we've had to think carefully about how to scale. With only one full-time developer, we recognized the need to build a pipeline of skilled student collaborators who can support innovative XR research. So we've developed this tiered model where senior students are matched with faculty-led projects and they're mentored by our full-time XR developer. This extends our capacity while giving students meaningful hands-on real-world experience. So an example of this, we've been sort of testing the waters. Last spring, one of our undergraduate fellows, this is Mila, she partnered with Dr. Ram Hadass's team at Motion Labs in the orthopedics department at the Med Center. And they developed an immersive training application that interfaces with some novel lab equipment they have there at Motion Labs. And the goal was to help patients regain shoulder mobility. So we got them to a proof of concept, and then they wanted to do further development on it. And we also facilitated connections with 2 additional students who then joined Dr. Hadass's lab and continued the project. So this shows how the pipeline can foster a long-term collaboration in a more sustainable way. We're also planning to archive and share XR research and teaching outputs so that projects aren't just one-offs, but become accessible resources that can inform and inspire future work. Another exciting development, we're launching a new 2-credit course called Intro to XR Theory and Practice in spring of 2026, and this is going to be listed under our Digital Media Studies program. It's modeled after our pre-college program that I just mentioned, and will provide hands-on experience with XR tools, concepts, and workflows. We've heard from many students that they'd like more hands-on experience with the technology. We can't hire all of the students to give them that experience. So we're hoping that this will meet that need. And then also this will prepare them for upper-level coursework and will help them find research opportunities if they're interested in that. We'd also like to offer course integration grants, especially for faculty in the humanities and humanistic social sciences. Together with the new course, these efforts will help us build to an eventual XR certificate or cluster. Finally, we're developing a proposal to reconceive our STEM library as a hub for research. With growing needs and services around data, XR, and AI, we envision a space that better supports emerging technologies and fosters transdisciplinary collaboration. And again, we're starting here with user research. This past fall, the team has been meeting with peers and aspirational peers, conducting interviews. We've also done some site visits. And this spring, we switched to internal interviews and focus groups with researchers. But it's not all rainbows and unicorns. We have big ideas, but we also need to ensure our long-term sustainability. The future of research funding, as we all know, is uncertain, especially with recent government changes and cuts. And XR technology is expensive and evolves quickly, making it difficult to keep up. While we're fortunate to have an endowment, it doesn't cover everything. I had hoped to apply for NEH funding to support the course development grants, but they've just announced significant cuts to both funding and staff, which makes that path less viable. We're also navigating staffing challenges ourselves. I'm sure as many of you are also experiencing. Our immersive technologies librarian, for example, who supports most of the course integration and does our outreach, is in a part-time term limited role. And that support allows me to focus on research development and project partnerships, and without it, our capacity would be significantly impacted. Of course, these challenges remain real, but we remain hopeful. And we know what's possible because we've seen what we can do. Again, Studio X was launched in the middle of a pandemic, an uncertain and difficult time, but we adapted, got creative, and built something from the ground up. We've built strong connections, a vibrant community, and we have a clear vision of what we'd like to do next. With continued support and strategic partnerships, we hope we can continue to grow Studio X in meaningful and sustainable ways. So if you'd like to follow along with our progress, check out the QR code on the slide. It links to our social media, annual reports, and our full phase 2 strategic planning document. I also have some physical copies here if you're interested and like to take a look. Before we open it up for questions, I want to offer a few words of thanks. Huge thank you to our former director, Emily Sherwood, and to an undergraduate, Libby Braun, for co-writing the report with me, and to Vinny Homualdo for designing it so beautifully. Thank you also to our interim dean, Marini Straub, for her guidance and support, and of course, endless thanks to our amazing Studio X team who make all this work possible. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
It sounds like Studio X is very popular, and that brings a problem of how do you deal with too many requests and too many potential opportunities, and it's very similar to what's happened in many digital scholarship centers. And so my question is, do you have guidelines? You mentioned tiered services, for example. Have you communicated those tiers of service to your user community or just to your student employees? And do you have actual guidelines for what your students or other staff will do in terms of grants, participation in grants, how much time, what types of activities as part of their job in Studio X, and what should be covered through the researcher's grant? So it's kind of a broad question, but I'm curious what you've developed so far and what you think is needed.
Thanks, Joan. That's a great question. We're still in the early days of beginning to partner on research projects. This is something I have been thinking about. For example, our new XR developer, she's really terrific and in high demand already, and our researchers are flocking to her. We haven't written guidelines as of yet, but it's something that we will develop. And we are part of the digital scholarship team. And something that we've all been focusing on over the last couple of years is the consultation model and not taking on too much work and building things for folks. So we do have a scope of work that we put together at the beginning of each research project that outlines exactly what the outcomes will be and what the staff time will be. There's not hard and fast rules about the quantities as of yet. That might be something we have to consider in the future. But we stick firm to that. Like the project at Motion Labs, Dr. Hadas wanted us to keep going with that and had all of these additional features he wanted to add. But we had the undergraduate work on it for just that semester, and the relationship is still good.
Hi, Meg. I noticed you were talking about a strategy to archive and share the research outputs. Can you talk a little bit about what you're thinking? Because we struggle with this at UP.
Yes, thanks, Elaine. So again, this is early days as well. We're just testing the waters with this. We have a really great working relationship with our data team that is in the STEM library with us, and they're experts and fantastic folks. And we started, initial project is that pre-college program that I mentioned. We created it into an OER, and because we had heard from one of the students in the class, her feedback was that it was a really great program, but that it was quite costly. And so that really stayed with me. And so over the summer, one of our fellows assessed the program, refined it, and then worked with our OER librarian and to optimize everything and to make sure we had, all of our images were, the copyright was all great with that, and to also make sure that the Unity files were properly documented. And so we worked with our data team and the OER librarian, and we put that on Figshare. So that just launched. So that's the institutional's the institutional repository. And so that's the first project that we've done so far, and we just launched that in January. So I'm starting to have more concrete conversations with faculty, especially thinking about there's so many student projects that are developed and they don't go anywhere. Like, they present on them, we see them. It'd be really great to be able to put those projects up on the repository. And I'm talking with the data team about creating a framework, a submission framework, so that makes that work easier.
Good morning. Reyes Wishin, University of California, Riverside. We also have a Creator Lab and a VR component. I found your presentation really fascinating. And there were a couple of questions that I had. The transdisciplinary grouping of faculty was fascinating, putting those different academics together. We've done projects with one academic in terms of partnering, but we've never done sort of that grouping effort. Could you go a little further in terms of how you get that group together, and then how you're actually modulating or facilitating that relationship in terms of as projects go on? That's the first half of my question. And should I ask the second one, or should I wait?
Let me answer the first part, and then I'll do the second. Thank you. Yes. So when I started the NSF-funded graduate training program I mentioned was already in place. So that is also interdisciplinary and has faculty from chemical engineering and computer science and optics and audio and music engineering, and it's aimed to bring those graduate students together. And they also opened it beyond STEM into the Warner School of Education. So that was a really great model for us. And we were involved, not in the planning for that because we didn't exist yet, but we are pretty involved in the curriculum now. And so I've been able to create rapport and partnerships, and we provide so much support that they trust us. And so moving forward with the Transdisciplinary Center and other initiatives, we started hosting events that brought everybody together. So we ran our first research symposium almost 2 years ago. It was actually an undergraduate who's a super research nerd, had this idea, which I say that in the font this way, we love nerds. And it was his idea because he knew about all of these, or had heard about all of these different researchers. And so he wanted to bring them together, and we really support and send our students. So we did that, and it was really great because their faculty, as we all know, are so busy. They don't have time to really talk to one another. So here they were able to do that. And we also brought in folks from RIT, and we forged more connections. And I think the other piece of it is really getting to know the researchers and what they're interested in. So I try really hard to again, build those relationships, to hear the things that they care about, and then to make those connections. And then for the Transdisciplinary Center, we were just a natural partner for all of that. We already know all the faculty, we have all the resources. So we've been involved with that since the beginning.
Oh, thank you. Then I love the idea of the symposium. The second half of the question has to do with what you were mentioning with regards to the students. We also have the same challenges in terms of we've got one person that does the VR and then a staff member that helps them that isn't an expert. But I thought the idea of training the students was very intriguing in terms of actually bringing them up to speed and even in terms of workforce development. My questions about that is, what is the training process, and then how long do you mentor the students? Is it a multi-year? Is it a half year? What are the timelines? And then what are the expectations of the students? Thank you.
Thank you. And also, your space lab, Makerspace, has been on my radar as well. So I know you're doing exciting work. Yes. So we really try to get good ROI on the students. We try to hire them if they have no skills at all, not no skills at all, but if they don't have any XR experience, we try to hire them when they're sophomores. And most of our students actually stay with us for the entirety of the rest of their undergraduate experience. So we have a pretty in-depth training process that starts with the equipment and some core services like lending equipment and things like that. And then we have them do trainings in Blender and Unity. And they have a time. They have to do it within a time limit within like a month or two. And we're very strict about this. It's an expectation. We tell them this when they're interviewing. And so then once they have those in place, then they're matched to the Orem project, which I mentioned earlier. And there's different teams. There's a coding team, a 3D modeling team, a UX team, and a research team. So depending on their skills and interests, we match them to those teams. And so then we get to see how they work. There's a project manager. I work very closely with her. She tells me, and there's team leads for each group. And she tells me like, oh, so-and-so is not committing as much effort to this as we'd like. And so that's how we kind of get to suss things out. We see the students that are really engaged, that have this skill set, and then we pick those students to match to the more faculty research projects and to things that have a little bit more responsibility. So in short, we really get to know them for 2 to 3 years. Sometimes we hire students that work with us for a less amount of time, but that's usually because they have significant skill sets. So for example, I hired a student who is graduating next year. It's not ideal, but she is fantastic at 3D modeling with Blender. And so it's kind of, you have to balance that trade-off.
Hi, Kareem Bugida, Stony Brook. Sometimes I hear from some administrators that for the last 5 years, they're questioning VR, AR, and they link it to metaverse collapse and say, why do you invest in this? Have you get that like in your campus or not? There was some skeptical.
I have seen that, and I understand, especially there seems like there's obviously a big shift towards AI. Like I feel like at conferences a number of years ago, everyone was talking about XR, and then it's been a shift more towards AI. I'm not really concerned about that, and I haven't seen that be an issue at the U of R. All of our faculty are very still committed to creating XR applications, to using them for their research. And if anything, AI has only accelerated everything. We're seeing it, our students are using it to help them with their coding. The 3D modeling generators are getting better and more viable. And so I think it's going to streamline our work. It's also creating some really interesting applications. There's this application called Virtual Speech, in which you can practice public speaking with an AI avatar, and it's actually really powerful. And I thought it was going to be kind of, the avatar has dead soulless eyes, but it's actually quite effective. You can upload your resume, and it will analyze it and ask you tailored questions, and then it'll ask you follow-up questions. So I do realize that in some places there's been some questioning about the future of XR, and I get that we'll have to evolve, but the demand for our services is still very high, and it's getting to the point, and back to Joan's question, where we will have to decide how to prioritize projects and create some more structure around that. Any other questions? I think we're actually right about at time. Okay, thank you so much.